angry residents in Mohlakeng on the West Rand spent the day targeting places allegedly linked to illicit syndicates who they accuse of rampant crime.
The West Rand has been hit by protests since last week. Community members say they're trying to find groups known as Zamazamas.
And today's demonstrations follow meetings between the community and the police top brass over the weekend. SABC News Offences Timo is on the ground for us.
There has been, a conflict to some extent where, they would target a certain shack where they suspect there would be a Zama residing there, but unfortunately there would also be small children residing there. Then you would find the mother figures within the community actually telling them that, they're not supposed to get the children to be homeless. But I'm actually joined now by one of the residents here, Tshepiso Mokoena, just to elaborate on exactly what transpired. Tshepiso, ke lebohela nako ya hao fethu. Koporo tlhalosetse ka situation se ne se halasela go tlile a se badudi ba mo for ways informal settlement ke batho ba Mohlakeng ba no ba itse yang gore ke mikhukhu e feng go ba tlokreang di zamazama ko teng
bra di mense ba fiwa information ke batho ba dulang mo ene ha se batho ba go Mohlakeng fela bone ba ba etsang so ba kopane le batho ba Krugersdorp ke bone ba fa information, you see. So ntwena le rona ya re tshosa because ha re sa robala monate no ene wa bona ha ba ka ba tsama gona le motho mo go bone le rona re tshaba le go ba fa information as re tshaba gore afterwards ha go fetsa go etsagala so di mense ba ka tswa go ba tswang teng kole ba tlo re kenella gore ya ko wena ntse leader fa information di mense ba itseng gore ba kenelle mekhuku a rona ba fitlhe ba go bolai mo dulang teng mo plekeng o dulang mo gone as re tshaba le go bua le gore le rona ra tshaba go khomba gore ke mo kae because so tshwantse o iphitlhe gore o fe gore ke mokhuku le o itseng what these people ba zamazama as now re bua no di mense a kantse ba tshesa mekhuku ba krile before ba tshesa mekhuku ena ba krile dithunya tsa bone di mense tsa bo zamazama tse dingata dithunya tse di kreilweng ka mo mekhukunyela as we speak now because no re se re tsogile le no because maybe during the night ba ka nna ba tla ba re kenelle mo re dulang teng or yang we don't know gore re etse yang now we can't even sleep during the night.
Let's continue with the story now and speak to Dr. Joe Mabuela, who's a Krugersdorp community leader. And Dr., thank you so much for your time this afternoon. Are you shocked by what we have been seeing in the West Rand?
Look, yeah, it's starting with the rape of those innocent young girls that were simply coming to shoot a movie. It really shocked the community. We know that these things have been going on, these murders and these rapes have been going on, but not at that scale. And so when this happened, it really shook us. It shocked our systems. And that's why the people of Kagiso, the people of the West Rand decided enough is enough. We are taking to the streets. We have been talking to the authorities about these things, and it seems like no one has been listening to us. No one has taken us seriously. And that's when they decided we're taking matters into our hands now.
Let's talk about that very call of frustration, because it was also echoed as we're listening to various residents speaking to the police minister and other officials over the weekend. I mean, they talk about the issue of crime, gender-based violence, among others. What is it like to be a resident in the West Rand right now? Let's look at the different areas. What do you say right now currently is like to be a resident there?
Look, we are not safe. In terms of the statistics that the police released themselves June 14 this year, the first quarter statistics, they give you an idea of the kind of situation we live in. Officially, Kagiso is the rape capital of the Gauteng province. We rate as number one in terms of the number of rapes, and that was what the minister himself alluded to in terms of this, the crime stats. In terms of the whole of South Africa, when it comes to rape, South Africa, Kagiso is number 6 in terms of the whole country, and in terms of murder, we stand at number 9 in the whole country and number 5 in GP. Violent crimes, contact crimes, sexual crimes, Kagiso just tops. And so we're living in a situation where you really don't know. I mean, every day, practically every day, there's a corpse, 2 or 3 people dead, and some dumped in the field, and so on. And this was not so before the arrival of these illegal miners in the area about 4 or 5 years ago. I mean, you can tell there's a direct correlation between, the upsurge in the illegal mining industry and the crime stats and the crime that has gone up. So there is that correlation. It was not so before. And so living in Kagiso, living in the West Rand, I mean, driving into Kagiso, already you get a message from your tracker, insurance company, that, hello, you are in a high-risk area, That tells you how it's like. There's gunshots every evening, every night. In some areas of Kagiso, these Zamazamas have put a curfew there. Have imposed a curfew, said from 8 p.m., no one is supposed to be in the street. In our own land, in our own country, in our own township, we are told by people from outside of South Africa to say, from this time to this time, we don't want you in the streets. And don't think these guys are kidding. They are serious. I mean, October 26, Extension 2 and 3 in Kagiso, 9 people were killed, and the case was reported to the police. And they were killed by the Zamazamas, by the way. And it was reported. There's a docket there, there's a case number there. And up to now, nothing has happened,
And pardon me, Doctor, for coming in there. I mean, I was listening to what some of the residents had to say about police intervention, and I'm listening to you as well. They accuse them, for example, of taking bribery. Some say that, police officers simply do not care about what is going on the ground. And various residents even had some case numbers and talking about the interaction that they've had, even with a cluster commander, Kekana, for example, as I was saying, that there's so much going on there and they simply do not get help. We're seeing that police are now saying that they're going to be sending reinforcement. Will this help at all?
I'm laughing because this is not new. They have said that over and over again. June 15, they gave us a promise that from now on, you're going to see men and women in blue filling the streets of Kagiso on the West Rand. You'll be seeing this, cluster policing, sector policing, etc. And that has not happened, And when we question that, they tell us about the resources. Now they're telling us there are no vehicles. They're telling us that, the other area, Tsepisong, has now been incorporated into Kagiso in terms of policing. There's no budget, etc. So when the guys, this police personnel promised that over the weekend, we just said, oh, well, this is not new. But we are watching. We were watching. We saying, you made a promise. This time, fulfill the promise. And the people of Kagiso and the West Rand are saying, if these promises are not fulfilled, then action will be taken again. And so we just hope that it doesn't get to that. We just hope that this time these people are serious, because the people made it clear, bring the army. And Cele said, no, we are capable. We have the capacity. We've got. We can deal with this thing, but why now? Why wait for 8 girls to be raped in this way before you can say we have the capacity to deal with this thing?
Dr. Mabuela, for you, apologies for coming in there, and I'd like to make it a bit more personal. As a resident there in Kagiso, you're a father. You have girls as well. How concerned are you as a father, as a parent, every time they leave the house?
It's scary. It's scary. Your kids leave the house, you don't know if they're going to come back. You have to be calling them every 5 minutes. Where are you? How is it there? I'm a pastor of a local church. I've got, daughters in the Lord, daughters in the ministry. And every time I get a phone call from any of my members, in my heart skips a beat. I hope it's not, I hope I'm not going to hear bad news about it, So it's terrible living under these conditions. We are under siege. It's like we are being held hostage, in our own country, in our own city. Just yesterday, one lady was explaining how they were in a taxi and they were all jolly, all happy, and then suddenly one of these guys came in, blanket clad, into the taxi, and suddenly everybody stopped and said, hey, driver, short left, driver, it's not nice. I mean, all 14 of you in a taxi, one guy comes in clad in the Vasoto blanket, and suddenly everybody's alighting from the taxi. What kind of a living is that?
Is this
And
a
so for me-
failure? Is this a failure of state intelligence, would you say, to detect exactly what is going on?
Do we really have intelligence in this country? I doubt. I mean, if people on the ground can tell you and can pinpoint certain things and say, this is where this thing is happening, this is where this, I mean, if intelligence is there, then it means this corruption has also crept into intelligence itself. It means then this intelligence also is part of this syndicates, you know, because there's no way that they will not know about these things. There's no way that they will not know that there's these things happening, you know. If they do know and they're quiet about it or doing nothing about it, then the question is why are they not doing something about this, you know? So if there is intelligence in this country, you know, but from the way things are, it seems like we don't even have that intelligence, you know. People have lost trust in the police. I mean, I myself, sitting here talking to you, in the past 2 years, COVID started, the lockdown was March 2020. We had our church broken into about 7 times. We even had a whole Palisade fence stolen. The church has no fence anymore, it was stolen. We have reported those cases. I have 9 case numbers. None of them has been resolved by the police. 9. None of them has been resolved by the police. So how do you expect me then to say, oh, I trust these guys, I trust what they said? No, all we said, we really, you know.
Yeah,
So,
all right. Thank you so much, Doctor, for your time. And one really wishes that, as you say, that they make good on these promises, because you say there have been several promises and yet nothing has happened on the ground. But let's see how this situation unfolds. That was Krugersdorp community leader, Dr. Joe Mabuela, as we're talking about these protests that we've seen throughout last week and those engagements with the police ministry over the weekend.